Welcome into Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolf here. No Gavin today, but I do have a great guest for the first segment today. I brought back JJ Jackson of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast to give the scoop on Trevor Keels before the first game of Summer League tonight. And after that, I'll be going over Summer League goals for some of my more intriguing young Knicks on this Summer League squad. So that's all coming up next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or if you're taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys making Locked On Knicks a part of your day every single day. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And as I mentioned in the open, I do have a great guest for the first segment today. JJ Jackson of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast comes back to the show, second time in about a month, to talk about Trevor Keels before we get into the first Summer League game today. So I won't hold this up anymore from that conversation and send us right to that. All right, I am joined as promised by, I can now say, a frequent guest of the podcast. I have JJ Jackson of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. And JJ, last time that I had you on, it was before the draft, and I was like, oh, what about AJ Griffin? What about Mark Williams? And both of them could have been Knicks, but as we saw, they traded out of the first round of the draft, instead held on to their second round pick, and of course, selected the guy that we didn't talk about at all, Trevor Keels, who will be making his Summer League debut today. I'm going to be honest, JJ, it's been kind of a whirlwind for me personally since the draft. I have not had much time to sit down and watch some film and have some fun with that. So I am clueless on Keels. Give me the starter pack on Trevor Keels right now.
Yeah, no, Alex, I'm thrilled to be back with you. I've mentioned this before with you in conversations. I might have even mentioned it last time on Locked On Knicks. At this point, I'm kind of an honorary Knicks fan, given the number of Duke players that keep heading up that way. A North Carolina native my entire life. If I ever had any primary team, it would be the Charlotte Hornets. But now there's so many Blue Devils there in Madison Square Garden, I might as well cheer for the Knicks with how well this has gone. And Trevor Keels, I'm super thrilled for him that he was selected. He was the last guy of the 5 Duke players to be drafted into this year's upcoming this year's NBA draft. And some people wondered if he could get into the back half of the first round. Ultimately goes 42 to New York. But man, this guy played really well throughout the season for Duke, particularly the first game of the year against Kentucky in Madison Square Garden, of all places. Everybody was watching the first game of the season to kick off Coach K's final year as the head coach. And the leading scorer for Duke, the leading scorer in the game, was Trevor Keels with 25 points, man. I think this is a home run selection for New York. His shot is there. It wasn't consistent at all points last year, but this guy looks like a running back or a linebacker playing basketball with how well he finishes through contact, loves contact, and wants to be able to finish at the rim. So I'm excited to see what he can do in his NBA career.
Yeah, I think the most entertaining and weird comparison that I saw, I want to say it was maybe from The Ringer or something, was Lou Dort without the elite defense. And I was like, the hell is that player? That just kind of sounds like a dude who's half complete on offense, but doesn't have that elite defense to make up for it. I'm kind of curious what your read is on him overall as a role in the NBA. Like, I do notice he's a little undersized. I think by it, I shouldn't say undersized. He's not as long as most NBA guys, but as you said, he's built like the dude is built like a running back. So how do you see him slotting in the NBA? Like, do you think that he has what it takes to hang with shooting guards on defense and defend speedier guys like that? Because I do have a little bit of a harder time seeing his build, imagining him moving down a position, meaning moving to the 3 or the 4 to try to defend guys there. because he just generally seems like he's not going to have the length to compete with guys like that. So how do you see him slotting in on the defensive end in the NBA?
I think all of that is fair. I think the comparison you mentioned with Lou Dort, I think offensively and defensively, it doesn't really match with their two games, but you look at their pure builds themselves. Those guys are just, I don't know, thick is probably the best word to describe them out there on the basketball floor, and they use their body to their advantage. Defensively for Trevor Keels, you're not going to get Lou Dort, but I think he will be able to kind of hold his own given his strength. Quickness is something that a lot of scouts wanted him to improve on at the combine. His vertical leap wasn't overly impressive. His body fat percentage was something that definitely needs a little bit of work as you get started as a professional. But he's also one of the youngest players in the entire draft, really young for his age, now getting to enter the league at 18. I think New York has to be excited about what you could possibly get, the possibilities, the upside of somebody like Trevor Keels. I think if he can learn a little bit on the defensive end, continue to give max effort, he's definitely going to have a role somewhere in the league. And hopefully it is a long time, many years to come with the New York Knicks.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Until you just brought it up, I hadn't even really thought about the fact the Knicks really sort of broke their own protocol by going with Keels in the draft, because they've, under this current regime, mostly gone for more established players. They've gone for sophomores, juniors, guys that, sort of seem like they had developed their game in college a bit and were ready to contribute right away in the NBA. With Keels, only 1 year. And, you alluded to the shot came on more as the year went on, but on volume did struggle a little bit from three, shot 31% on 5 attempts a game, 11.5 points, but was pretty well rounded. It seems like he, can rebound the ball with that stockiness, with that thickness, as you said, and can also move the ball a little bit too. So I don't know. What do you think his upside is as far as, his ability to get better? And what we're sort of, I think when you look at young players like that, guys that aren't the established college veterans, you're always looking for the flashes. So what were some of the flashes you saw this year that you would maybe, if you're a Knicks fan, look for in Summer League that he could potentially show out there in Vegas?
Just a really complete offensive game is what stood out to me. And while the jump shot was inconsistent, when it was on, and it was really impressive and really special. As I mentioned, playing like a running back, or on the defensive side of the ball, playing like a linebacker, however you want to view him. When he puts the ball, he tucks it in and gets to the rim. It's really hard to stop him when he puts his head down, finishes through contact as well as he does. Got a little bit of a mid-range pull-up game that we saw at times in his lone season playing for the Duke Blue Devils. So in terms of upside for Trevor Keels, I really can see him being a integral piece for an NBA team. I think he's going to be able to go to the next level and score the basketball. I think averaging double digits at some point in his NBA career is very feasible. I think averaging, 15, 17 at some point in his career would be something that Trevor Keels could be able to accomplish. Because if you could score the basketball, any team is going to want you at a certain point, because at the end of the day, you got to score more points than the opposition to win. It's basketball 101. And given how talented he was in high school, given how heralded of a recruit he was, and the fact that he played for a Duke team that had every single eyeball in America watching every game and showing up every game the way that Trevor Keels did, I think that's a good reason enough to be thrilled about what he could possibly be at the next level in the NBA.
So last question before I let you go. And I know that this is always a fool's errand, but I love doing it anyway, because we do it ourselves on the show all the time. If you were going to give me a floor, a ceiling, and a likely comp for him, what do you think that those three things would be? And the likely maybe even doesn't have to be a certain player, can just sort of be like what you see his role being in the NBA long term.
Yeah, truthfully, I don't know that I could give you any player for those. Just given where I'm at in the college game versus the league, but taking a look at what his ceiling could be, like I said, I really do think Trevor Keels could be a starter for an NBA team, given his talent and the upside that he's got there, his ability to score the basketball. I love what he's going to be able to bring on the offensive end of the floor. A floor for Trevor Keels would be a player that just can't break into a rotation because of his inefficiencies or inability on the defensive end and his body. It's really concerning, some of the combine numbers that he turned in athletically. As I mentioned, a really bad vertical leap, the heaviest shooting guard that was measured at the NBA Combine. The body fat percentage is something that you want to work on. His cone drill shuttle time wasn't that great. So I think it's really fair to say the floor for Keels would be somebody who just can never break into a rotation. I know Knicks fans kind of went through that with somebody like Kevin Knox, right, who was a one-and-done player at Kentucky. You see all the upside, all the promise that's there. You know better than me the reasons why it didn't work for Kevin Knox, but we all can agree it just didn't work. And so that would probably be where I put the floor for Trevor Keels. But in terms of the ceiling, I definitely think he could be a good scorer in the league for sure.
Well, luckily for the Knicks, much less risk associated with the 42nd pick versus
No
the
kidding.
top 10 pick that they used on Kevin Knox. So I'll take it. I'll take that
That's why
chance.
my comparison wasn't. That's why I shouldn't have
Yeah.
gone with the comparison. It was just the first name that came to mind. You're right.
No, it's an appreciable comp though. Like it's just it's a better place to take a swing on a player like a
No
Keels
doubt.
or a Knox than where the Knicks ultimately took that chance on Knox a number of years ago. So, JJ, this has been great. I feel like I have a much better idea of who Keels is as a player. Hopefully, everybody listening does too. Other than Locked On Blue Devils, where, of course, everybody can find you all the time, just like they find us here talking about the Knicks all the time. Did you want to let anybody know where else to find you online and all that good stuff before I send you off?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Alex. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. We'll do this in a couple of weeks to talk about the Knicks going into this upcoming season now that we've got 3 Duke players. I'm on Twitter at _JJ_Jackson_ Locked On Blue Devils. And then I'm a broadcaster with the SEC Network, ACC Network, with a lot of their volleyball and softball events coming up this fall, this spring. And then also hosting a radio show in Auburn talking about football and the SEC. I do it all. I do a lot of talking about sports. Follow me on Twitter, and you can see all the content there. So, Alex, always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend.
Yep, another play-by-play aficionado, just like my normal co-host Gavin. So you fit right into that spot on the screen, man. Thanks so much for popping on, JJ. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be talking on Locked On Blue Devils soon enough.
Can't wait. Thanks, Alex.
All right. Thanks again to JJ Jackson from the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. That was some great insight on Trevor Keels. I'm certainly intrigued to see what he's going to look like against some newly drafted NBA competition in Summer League. And I'm going to be getting into one incumbent and one new guy in this next segment. Deuce McBride and Montero, the point guards going into Summer League. So I'm definitely excited to get into that. But first, I got to let you guys know about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you guys want to endure all that questioning, the high prices, and the pushy salespeople that just want to sell you things that are going to make them tons of money? And especially when you realize that, if a mechanic walked in right behind you, they'd be paying a lower price than what you're going to pay, because these places give discounts to mechanics, but not to people that are just trying to save a buck and do some work themselves. Just all in all, not a great situation. That's where rockauto.com comes in. You can save time and money when you use Rock Auto. Why would you want to spend 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership when you could be using rockauto.com? On top of it, Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer, not just for mechanics, for anyone. And actually, that does include mechanics. So if you're a mechanic and you feel like you're getting a raw deal, maybe check out rockauto.com. You might save yourself a little bit of money and get things delivered straight to your store instead of having to go to the store. So go to rockauto.com right now, and you can see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box to decide to get something so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. And with that, we are back to Locked On Knicks, and it is Summer League time. It really snuck up on me. It's kind of crazy how things work in the NBA like that, where the draft feels like it just happened, and now all of a sudden we're getting to see these guys play. Free agency has kind of run its course for the Knicks. It seems maybe there's still a trade coming up or something that will take us all by surprise. But as of right now, things are a little bit calm in Knicks land. Seems like kind of the perfect time for this to come up and, give us a little bit of basketball to watch, even if, unfortunately, we have to give Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley their cap and gown. They have officially graduated the summer league program. No more of this for them. Pretty obvious when you're tearing it up like they were at the end of the year, and even tearing it up like they were in the summer league last year. Not much point of them being there anymore, but they were fun to see last year in their only summer league, unfortunately, since there wasn't one before their rookie season thanks to COVID. So they'll be sorely missed this year, but there's plenty to look forward to. Even though the Knicks did make a draft pick in the first round, they still did, draft, as we covered in the last segment, Trevor Keels, who is certainly going to be an intriguing guy to look at. And there's a few incumbents as well, and one newcomer that I want to cover before the end of the show today. So the first incumbent that I want to talk about is Deuce McBride. I think he's probably the most interesting case to me. I'm really intrigued to see if he's going to take the reins as point guard. Last year, and this was the case first off in the summer league, and then we saw, I think, and I'll make this point a few times, the summer league sort of forecast how these guys were going to be used in the NBA last year. We saw Emmanuel quickly be trusted as the point guard of the summer league team, and then of course took till down the stretch, but eventually he was trusted with that role with the big Knicks down the stretch of the season, and really, took advantage of that. Obi was tasked with being like the guy on offense as far as being like the scorer. And we saw him, average like 30 points per game in his last X number of starts down the stretch of the season as well. Small sample size, but it seems like those summer league reps kind of paid off for Obi in that regard. And so with Deuce this year, he played mostly off ball during last year's summer league. And that makes me interested to see if maybe now he's going to get to sort of take over like Quickly did, or if the Knicks are going to trust the next guy I'm going to talk about, Gene Montero, to be more the point guard in summer league. I think it's going to give a bit of an indication of what the Knicks think Deuce's ultimate utility is. Do they think that he can be a point guard that can initiate an offense and generate looks for others, or do they look at him as more of like an undersized two guard that can go out there, play great defense, do a little bit of ball handling, but mostly do like some pull up and spot up shooting? I guess time will tell. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But he certainly did handle the ball in the G League in 4 games. Again, small sample size, but it's so impressive that it bears mentioning. 4 games in the G League last year, Deuce McBride averaged 27 points, 8.5 assists, and 6 rebounds on a pretty staggering 49% from the field, 42% from 3, and 100% from the free throw line. So he has done it, and we saw a brief stint in the NBA during when the Knicks, all the Knicks had COVID and everything, that he was able to sort of take the reins and be the point guard. I want to see if that's something that the Knicks challenge him to do during the summer league, and then if we eventually see that kind of transition over into the NBA season, where as of right now, it doesn't seem like the Knicks are going to get rid of Derrick Rose. So it's going to be pretty stiff competition at the point guard spot with Brunson, Emmanuel Quickly, Derrick Rose, and Deuce McBride. So what can Deuce do to sort of separate himself in this field? Or if he winds up playing off ball of Gene Montero, can he prove like I'm worthy of some backup 2 minutes, even though I'm undersized because I have a good wingspan? I'm like a super tenacious defender. And look, I can shoot and I can handle the ball a bit, and I can pull up, shoot, and all these things that you want out of a player in the NBA today. So we'll see how that all works out. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting, case study with Deuce to see what they empower him to do. So I'm really intrigued to see how things go with him. But I'm also really intrigued to see Gene Montero. And this is another guy that I'd be lying if I said I had like a really full scouting report on. Probably my favorite one that I read, if anybody wants to look it up. It was a pretty short profile, but pretty illuminating as far as clips and stuff. Some good stuff from the Overtime Elite clips and all that from our buddy Alex, who goes by Draft Film School over at No Ceilings NBA. So definitely check that out if you get the opportunity to. I'm actually going to look at what it was called right now. Gene Montero, the little offensive engine that could, is what the article is called. It's from a little bit ago, but really good read, I think, and had some great clips in there that kind of show off what Montero can do. I think he's more tuned towards being a scorer than a distributor, and that seemed to be Alex's takeaway at no ceilings as well, which is, Montero is good at scoring from all over. He can pull up. He could do pretty much whatever you want him to do. Some of his numbers in high school and in overtime elite were a little wonky from three, especially. But if you take a look at the degree of difficulty, he was being asked to do quite a bit for his teams as far as offensive creation and scoring load and that sort of thing. And we've seen it happen before where that can lead to like a lower percentage if you're essentially like option 1, 2, and 3 on offense. Teams are going to be throwing doubles, triples, whatever at you. You're going to have to force up some crap sometimes just to kind of keep teams honest. So I like it with him. I like the idea of him going out there and just sort of getting this stage to do what he wants, and give it a shot in the NBA. He's also, he took some pretty long threes as well in there. So I like what I saw from him from an offensive perspective. I think he has the real potential, despite being undersized, to be sort of a I don't know if I want to call him an offensive engine, but like a shot maker in the NBA. But the other thing is that, and I noticed this in the video too, he's shown flashes passing, but not necessarily like a finished product there. So I hope that the Knicks give him some leeway and really let him kind of try to ply his trade out there and try to, you know, work on those passing chops a bit, and sort of utilize those flashes, maybe get some pointers from like a Deuce McBride. I would love if like Emmanuel Quickly was in the building to just kind of coach him up, because on top of everything else that there is to love about IQ, he seems like a really good like coach on the bench sort of guy as well. So maybe he'll be there to sort of give some pointers to Montero as things go on, as another talented shooting point guard that has had to really work on the point guarding part of the position since he got to the NBA. I think what's going to ultimately end up happening with Montero and McBride, hopefully, is that they both start and they get a little bit of a split of reps there, as far as handling the ball and bringing it down the court, and also trying to like create easy looks for each other by being in spot up situations too. I think Deuce is going to adjust that a lot more because he played off ball so much this year. It might be a bit of a adjustment for Montero though, who has been a guy that's been trusted to have the ball in his hands quite a bit throughout his career to this point. So we'll see how that all works out. But he was one of the highest rated undrafted free agents by like many draft writers, and the Knicks managed to snag him. So Montero does have steel potentially written all over him. I also think based off watching his game, regardless of how things work out in the NBA, he's going to be really fun to watch in the summer league and probably in the G League for the Knicks this year. My hope would be that he does enough to prove himself and eventually can take the second two-way spot off of Farron Hunt. Sorry to Farron Hunt, but yeah, I think I'd just rather see Montero there at this point. So I'm going to get into Quentin Grimes and Jericho Sims to finish the show off in just a moment. But I did have to just remind you guys about Built Bars. And from the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar. But guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. Oh, I'm so excited about that. That's right. The coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen. They are good for you. They're low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. So go to built.com now to make sure you don't miss out. They're going fast because they taste amazing. I can confirm they do taste amazing. It's one of my favorite flavors of all time. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, that they taste amazing, but you can also enjoy them guilt-free because they're actually good for you. They are the perfect treat, perfect for when you got a craving, you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick, healthy snack. They're an excellent source of protein. Delicious coconut, rich sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to Built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you can get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. All right, and with that, I will be getting into the final segment here before we just sit back and watch some Summer League ball. One of my favorite times of the year. It's like so carefree. You're just watching these guys to get the glimmers. If they suck, it's not a big deal because it's just summer league. They've got a whole summer to work on it, after this. But if they're great, like with Kevin Knox, you could talk talk yourself into them being a potential superstar down the road. So we'll see what kind of journey these guys take. And actually, I will just say this is sort of my ultimate question for summer league. I was going to save this for the end, but who is going to step up and be the star of summer league? Because I feel like there is always one. Like last year, I think it was sort of a shared award between Quickly and Obi. RJ Barrett, obviously, as the number 3 pick, he should have, and he did really kind of, take the reins, even if his efficiency wasn't great. He was like the guy in summer league. We saw, as I said, Kevin Knox really tear it up in summer league. Mitchell Robinson wow us that same year with his blocking of 3-pointers and all that sort of stuff. So it's really a fun time, and always there's always a hero that comes out that you sit back and go like, all right, I think this guy might have the goods, rightly or wrongly. Sometimes they're RJ Barrett or Mitchell Robinson. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're Kevin Knox, which is not a knock on Knox, but things have clearly not worked out the best for him in his career so far. Though shout out to him getting the deal with Detroit. So I hope that things work out there. But to get to Quentin Grimes, I think he's got as good of a chance as anybody as being like the star of summer league for the Knicks. I think we already know the shooting's going to be money. We saw that last year. Again, you want to talk about a guy that the Knicks used in summer league in a very similar way to what he would eventually get in the NBA. Like Grimes was essentially just a 3-point marksman in summer league last year. It was like, you get the ball, you shoot. You've always got the green light, point blank period, that's it. And I think that was just sort of the MO going in with Grimes last year, was to just be like, let's figure out the shooting with him. It took him a few games. It seemed like he was adjusting to the extra depth of the NBA 3-point line. But by the time he got halfway through summer league, he was already splashing like crazy and making tons of 3-point jumpers. So I don't think we have to really look for that from him. That's just going to happen. What I'm really more curious about with him is, what are we going to get extra? And this is going to be a similar theme for Jericho Sims next as well. Like, will we see Grimes try to attack closeouts more and get inside? We saw him do this occasionally in the NBA, but didn't really see him try to finish strong all that often. We've seen some guys on the Knicks kind of learn how to do that. We've seen Obi Toppin sort of learn how to finish stronger and with a little more finesse. We've seen Emmanuel Quickly really willing to like put his shoulder down, take some contact, and try to finish through it. So are we going to see that sort of development from Grimes where he says, you know what, screw it. Like, I might have a semi-decent 3 here, but if I pump fake this guy, I can get him into the first row of seats behind me, and I can just drive right into the basket, and maybe I'll run into some opposition, but I can draw a foul. I would love to see that sort of thing from him, because I think we can already safely say Grimes will be a great 3-and-D player in the NBA. He made threes at a really phenomenal rate for a rookie. He played amazing defense at multiple positions. So you don't have to worry about either of those things. But what you do have to think about is like, okay, well, is that all he's going to be, or is he going to be able to get more? And this is a perfect opportunity where, if he's been spending the last like 3 months learning some new stuff, try it out here. So I want to see that from him. I also want to see if he gets some initiation reps. I know I was kind of debating in the last segment about Deuce McBride versus Gene Montero, who's going to be handling the ball, who's going to be doing this and that. I want to see Grimes do a little bit too, though. Like, I almost want to see, I don't want to say exactly how RJ Barrett does it, but something similar to that. Like, I would love to see Grimes like try to be a creator, because that was what he was back in high school. Like, that was what made him a top 10 recruit in RJ Barrett's class, actually. I think there's something there. We saw a little bit of passing and some pretty interesting little flashes during the year for the Knicks for Grimes as far as passing goes. So maybe he just kind of gets unleashed and they say, hey, go reclaim high school, Grimes. Like, let's just see what we can get here. And, maybe it'll pay off for the Knicks, or maybe he'll kind of fall flat on his face. But no matter what, you'll start to sort of get a better picture of who Grimes could potentially be as a guy that came into the NBA as an older player. He wasn't like a first-year guy or anything. So, I should say a freshman that made the leap. He did get 3 years in college, which was a little bit of a winding path. But, if he's not starting to show some new stuff within the next like season or two, you might start just settling in on him being a really good 3-and-D player, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with because those guys always have a job in the NBA. So that brings me to another guy who I think is always going to have a job in the NBA, and that's Jericho Sims. And I think the book is pretty much there on Sims, right? Like he can jump super high. He could dunk the ball really well. It's crazy to say because like Mitchell Robinson was so good at this. Maybe not this past year, but in previous years when he was a little more spry with finishing alley oops. I just think Sims is just crazy. You could throw it like 6 feet above the rim or more, and he still seems like he's going to go up there and get it. Like he's like a monster or something. I mean, his vertical is just insane, and his ability to corral a ball and dunk it is fantastic. We also saw him be kind of switchy on defense too. Like he does a pretty good job not getting punished by guards and stuff like that if he gets switched on to them, which might be a virtue of him being at least relatively sort of a smaller center. So I think that we sort of have the book on those things from Sims. Also, he's a great rebounder. I should mention that as well. Probably the Knicks have, I struggle to say this, but maybe two of the better, we'll say young rebounding centers in the NBA on their team currently, because those two just really gobble up everything down there. But what are we going to see as far as rim protection from him? I feel like that's something that Sims probably struggled the most with during his rookie year, was sort of learning how to protect the rim and play that role, which obviously like Mitchell Robinson is really comfortable doing. And Sims is a backup. So, was a rookie last year. So it stands to reason he wasn't going to be perfect or anything. But, I hope that there's some progress in that department where he's a little better at protecting the rim and, keeping fouls under control. Not that he fouled a ton, but like he did average, I think about 4.5 fouls per 36, which I guess is pretty respectable. Like if you foul once per quarter, you're totally fine in the NBA. But I just would like to see the Knicks sort of do the same thing they do with Mitch, where they sort of funnel guys towards Sims and see how he holds up. Because I think that with that pure athleticism, even though he's a little undersized, like he can get up as high as he wants to try to block a shot. I would love to see him do that a number of times in summer league. So that's a big thing that I want to see from him. I also want to see what kind of offensive package he's been working on. I think last year we saw sort of like a baby hook in summer league from him, and never really saw it in the NBA to my recollection, but it makes sense because he's trying to carve out a role in the NBA. You don't want to be busting out like weird stuff, but if he wants to play with that baby hook again and I don't know, maybe take a mid-range jumper or something, like if he thinks he's got it, now's the time to do it. I would honestly say the same thing. Like if Mitchell Robinson were there or something too, I would be like, try it out here. Like this is the place to try all that wacky stuff when you're a center. Like shooting the three when that's not really your thing or whatever. Like Jericho Sims took a three during summer league. I'd be like, sure, at least you could try and see if you could do it. I don't think he can, but I'd love to see him try. But the big thing is I hope that he can develop something a little more than just like the jumping and dunking, which also goes for Mitchell Robinson too. I think that a baby hook would benefit both these guys. So hopefully it's something that they're both looking at for this coming off season. But basically, I think it boils down to, for both Grimes and Sims, what are we going to see different from them? What are we going to see that we didn't see last year, either in summer league or in the NBA, where both of them got a pretty good amount of time. I think Deuce kind of got the shaft a little bit in the NBA last year as far as actual NBA minutes, but Grimes and Sims both got some really valuable playing time, and we saw some pretty useful skill sets. So I want to see how they're looking to progress those in this summer league. But I think there's been enough talking. Summer league is like here now, so it'll be on tonight. I will have a reaction podcast for you guys for tonight's game, and then another one after Sunday's game for Monday, and then another one after Monday's game for Tuesday, and so on and so forth till the Knicks are done playing in summer league. I don't think Gavin's going to be on for tonight's recap either, so I will hopefully get another great guest to come on and chit chat about it with me. But anyway, until next time, thank you all for listening. We got great summer league content coming your way, plus, as usual, other great stuff, other great guests. So keep your ears and eyes out for more Locked On Knicks. But until next time, peace out, everybody. Talk to y'all soon.